Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would at this time like to move a motion, but I put on notice on October the 1st.
Go ahead.
And the motion calls upon the Prime Minister to come clean and disclose exactly who he met with and who they represented and the particulars of what was discussed when the Prime Minister met in New York City and in London, England, with leading global investment leaders. Since the motion was put on notice, the Prime Minister has disclosed the names of who he met with, and frankly, based upon those names, it raises even more questions.
Just hang on. So just before we move forward, for any discussion on this, the motion, as you said, was on notice, so it's in order. And I'll give you the floor. I think perhaps at this point I may dismiss Mr. Journo and Mr. Levine because we are almost near the time where we need it to be. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your testimony. It was very, very helpful today, your expertise on this issue. And on behalf of the committee, and on behalf of Canadians, I want to thank you for that. Okay? So, thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you. And the committee members are saying thank you, Mr. Levine, in case you can't hear them. So, thanks again. Mr. Barrett, on the motion?
Cooper.
Sorry, Mr. Cooper on the motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the ethics screen, the Prime Minister's so-called ethics screen, covers Brookfield in light of the Prime Minister's very real conflicts of interest due to his connections to Brookfield, including his future bonus pay worth tens of millions of dollars.
Sorry to interrupt again, Mr. Cooper, but I don't believe you read the entire text of the motion,
Okay.
so I need you to do that.
Okay.
Put it on record. I know
Okay.
it's on notice, but I need you to put it on
Okay.
record before you continue.
Okay. So the motion reads as follows, that having regard for the fact that the Prime Minister met with several business as well as investment leaders in his recent trips to New York City, New York, and London, England, and the Prime Minister has refused to disclose which individuals and/or entities he met with during those trips, and is subject pursuant of Conflict of Interest Act to an ethics screen intended to prevent him from making decisions related to 100 free companies that would place him in a conflict of interest, the committee order from the Prime Minister's office the production of records which comprehensively list each individual and, if applicable, the name of which entity, corporation, organization, and/or agency they represented, and their job title that was present in a meeting with the Prime Minister, the time and date at which those meetings took place, and what was discussed in those meetings from and including September 21, 2025 to and including September 28, 2025, and that these records be deposited with the clerk of the committee in both official languages no later than 1 week following the adoption of this motion. So that is the motion. And, Mr. Chair, this motion is about transparency. It's about seeing whether, in fact, the Prime Minister's so-called ethics screen is, in fact, working. The Prime Minister met with top global investment leaders in New York and in London. They were secret meetings. When he was asked who he met with, he refused to say. This motion was put on notice. Subsequent to that, the Prime Minister disclosed the names of the individuals that he met with. And based upon that limited disclosure, frankly, it raises more questions than it provides in the way of answers, because among those companies or representatives of companies that he met with have ties to none other than Brookfield. Now, the Prime Minister's ethics screen covers Brookfield because of the very real conflicts of interest that he has arising from the time that he was CEO of Brookfield Asset Management. But there we have the Prime Minister meeting in secret in New York and in London with global investment leaders with ties to Brookfield. And I would cite, for example...
J'ai un point d'ordre, s'il vous plaît, Monsieur le Président, parce que je veux juste comprendre.
Point of order. I just like to understand where my colleague is going with this. Is he amending a motion? Is he tabling a different motion? Is this a notice of motion? I think he's debated the motion. I'd just like to know where he's going with this. What agenda are we dealing with? If he is tabling a notice of motion, I think that's one thing. If he's amending the motion, then that he's. I just like to know exactly what the position is here.
The motion was put on notice October 1st? October 1st? So Mr. Cooper has moved the motion now that was on notice, and it was distributed to all members. Every member has a copy of that notice and that motion. So he properly moved the motion just now, and he's speaking to the motion. He has the floor. So if anybody, and Ms. Lapointe is afterwards. So everything is in order here. So.
Si je comprends bien, il est en train de s'exprimer sur le dépôt.
So if I understood correctly, we're on the tabling of the motion now?
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Saini, are you on a point of order?
On a matter of privilege. The meeting, I have another commitment.
Well,
we are supposed to finish at no.
It doesn't work that way.
6:30, and
yeah.
I don't think we can carry on.
Well, until this is disposed of, or we run out of resources, this will be debated. And I'm sorry that you have a meeting, but I would suggest that you speak to your whip, and maybe have somebody come in and fill in for you, sir. Okay. So, Mr. Cooper, you still have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have a Prime Minister who met in secret with companies or representatives of companies with ties to Brookfield, global investment leaders like Bill Gates of Microsoft. Microsoft has an offshore agreement with Brookfield in respect of green power. Google, a large agreement with Brookfield on green energy. And of course, we know the Prime Minister co-led efforts to raise tens of billions of dollars of capital for two of the largest green energy funds in the world, the global transition funds, in which he is entitled to carried interest pay, aka bonus pay, in respect of the performance of those funds. So it's not good enough to provide the names. We need to know exactly what was discussed. Canadians deserve to know whether the Prime Minister in any way tried to advance his interests or Brookfield's interests, which would advance his personal interests. This motion is about transparency. It's about providing those answers. If the Prime Minister has nothing to hide and in fact he didn't advance his personal interests, that he acted fully ethically, the Prime Minister's office would be very happy to provide those details, and Liberal MPs across the way would be voting for this motion with enthusiasm. I await to see what they do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper. Sur la motion, Madame Lapointe.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Madame Lapointe, on the motion. Thank you, Chair. This is something that's already public. The media has already discussed this. There is no secret here. Mr. Cooper has already said that this was public, so I don't understand why he wants to recall the motion that he had already given the notice last Wednesday. I don't understand why he's bringing it back. It's all public. All he wants to know is already in the media.
Ms. Church on the motion.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think if we are being honest with ourselves here, this motion is about grandstanding at this point in time, that the motion to basically have more information about the super secret meetings that have been disclosed and the people that the Prime Minister met with that are public knowledge and on the public record now. This doesn't seem to be a particularly good use of the committee's time. But the one thing that I would say to the members opposite proposing this is actually maybe a word of thanks to the member for explaining to all of us and to I'm sure, our audience here at the committee, the extent of this Prime Minister's expertise in helping build private sector investments and relations across the world with some of the strongest economic and corporate actors in global markets today, at a time when the members opposite, I think, spent much of our question period talking about the importance of investment in the Canadian economy. I think that it's actually reassuring to see a government that is focused on trying to ensure that Canada remains top of mind for some of the world's largest investors, and ensuring that they understand directly from high office like the Prime Minister's office, the value of investing and contributing to growth in Canada. Nonetheless, despite my views on that matter, I still do think that for the committee's time here, the fact that these meetings have already been disclosed, the fact that we have lists in front of us of the people that the Prime Minister met with, I think it should be within the prerogative of this committee to focus on work that will advance our understanding of access to information and ethics, rather than the grandstanding that we're seeing here.
Okay, Monsieur Sarret, sur la motion, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je
Mr.
pense que-
Sally on the motion. Well, I think that all kinds of things have been said by my colleagues, Honourable Member Church. And I think, again, the purpose of this committee is to assure ethics and access to information. There was a request made on October the 1st and calling for transparency about a particular person who was the Prime Minister, and the information has been obtained, which demonstrates the transparency of our Prime Minister, but also, as Member Church has said so eloquently, our Prime Minister is diversifying our ability, our economic ability, and is meeting with business personalities to increase our investments, whether it be sectoral or whether it's national, international. And instead of congratulating him for this exceptional effort, the Prime Minister is being told, oh, give us a report about the meetings and give us more transparency. Is this the role or the purpose of this committee? Is this the avowed purpose of this committee? Is that what we want? Do we want to know whether did you have coffee with this person or that person? Did you write notes? Give us the notes. I think that we are wasting our time here because this is an attempt to – this is about short, medium, and long-term structuring to ensure that MPs' work is such that we don't get tangled up in this kind of conversation. Now, I'm ready to stay here till midnight. No problem with that. But what is the objective here? If the objective is to discuss this so that we, as members of Parliament, can have a better access to information structure, because at 6:30 p.m., bringing this up, what is that demonstrating? Is this the way we're going to be working during this mandate? I don't think this is going to be efficient or effective. I don't think it gives anything to the taxpayers listening to us. And unfortunately, I think it's really a pity. But as I've done at the beginning, I'd like to close with this. I would like to congratulate our Prime Minister for his work and for having these meetings, because this is dealing with everything that we've heard in the question period today. He's working hard to have a strong economy and a strong Canada. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Thériault. Well, Chair, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Cooper for not tabling his motion before the time at which he tabled it. Because in the past, notices of motion were made before the meeting, and then there would be debates during the meeting while the witnesses were there, and we weren't able to hear the witnesses. So out of respect for the witnesses, I think it was good to proceed this way. Now, the notice of motion should have gone over to the Liberals, or must have gone over, fine. It would have been a good idea for the Prime Minister's office, out of respect for this committee, to have not just sent the information to journalists, but also sent everything requested in the motion to the committee. That would have been a mark of respect, because we're not doing politics here. We are involved in ethics here. And the reaction of my colleagues across the table leads me to believe that they're here to defend their leader. I have nothing to do with that. I didn't come here for that. What I want is transparency, and more transparency in this unusual case that we have before us. Everybody has agreed that the current situation involving our Prime Minister holding the highest rank in the country is a situation which had not been anticipated when the conflict of interest legislation was drafted, and it was not foreseen during the more recent revisions of this legislation. So, if colleagues are in good faith, well, they shouldn't be objecting to having increased transparency regarding the work that is supposed to be done for the common good, done by this Prime Minister, and that's why I'll be voting in favor of the motion. Thank you, Mr. Theriault. Mr. Saini, go ahead.
But I thought that we were here to better the ethic legislation. What I see happening here is my colleagues on the other side have nothing more than to attack the current Prime Minister, who was elected by Canadians, knowing fully well what he was doing compared to the leader of the opposition, who even couldn't hold his own seat. And this is a sad, sad situation that we are just talking about one person. This is not the Ethics Committee's role. And I'm sad this is where we are heading.
Thank you, Mr. Saini. I think I have Mr. Barrett on the motion.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt the member opposite's dinner plans, Chair. I think this is an important matter. We have, as Mr. Cooper articulated, a situation that's extraordinary, and we can go back several months to lay out the situation that Canadians are facing. And I would hearken members back to one of the debates during the election, where the Prime Minister, the former chair of Brookfield Asset Management, which is a major shareholder in Westinghouse Nuclear, said from the debate stage that Westinghouse, by name, was the preferred option of a government that he would lead. Why on earth? Why on earth would that have been the Prime Minister's choice? Now, this, of course, is the same Prime Minister who, before there was any type of ethics screen in place, before there were disclosures made to the public or finalized reports to the Commissioner, was sitting at the Cabinet table in March. But it's also the same Prime Minister who said that he himself wrote the Liberals' election platform. Well, that's before any of these screens were being administered or in place, and before the disclosures were made public. So people are rightly concerned that this Prime Minister has not been acting in their best interests. And this list of companies or individuals that were disclosed, we don't know if it's the full list, and it wasn't proactively disclosed. If I'm not mistaken, it was only released after media questions and after Mr. Cooper moved the motion at committee. So this is a matter where we're dragging, kicking and screaming a prime minister. And look, this isn't my first day. I've been here for a few years, and just the existence of the rules has not been demonstrated to be enough for Liberal ministers and Liberal prime ministers to follow them. Justin Trudeau was a serial ethical lawbreaker, time and time again. And ministers in his cabinet, some of those ministers who broke ethics laws are still in the Liberal cabinet. So you'll have to excuse us if we just can't say, my goodness, this is so unbelievable. The Conservatives are doing politics here, and they're just not taking the right honourable Prime Minister at his word.
Why would we?
We haven't been given any reason to. Unfortunately, we have to force disclosure from the Prime Minister. So tell us, give us the information. Disclose the information so that we can get on with it. But I just think it's unreasonable at best to just simply say, well, this is not something that we would ask for here, because the only reason the information that we have exists in the public forum is because we moved a motion at this committee. But we can backslap and congratulate ourselves on what a great job everybody's doing instead of just addressing the matter at hand. But that's not providing the accountability and transparency to Canadians in the context of a study that's about strengthening Canadians' confidence in elected officials and in our public institutions. I think that everyone should see. You know, we hear the refrain from the government very often that they're a new government. Well, the only reason that there's been a branding change is because of the conduct of the old government. It's the same. The same people are still there, but we saw what happened before, and as some of our witnesses testified today, the absence of meaningful penalties meant that people treat it just like a speeding ticket. That's no problem. I'm in a hurry. We're going to move fast and break stuff. Well, that's not the integrity that Canadians expect from elected officials. That's exactly what undermines confidence in our public institutions. And time again, and we saw it. We saw it in the last Parliament. We saw it over the last decade, where in this very committee room, we would have members opposite say, you know, this is just politics and there's nothing to see here. And what did we find out? We found out that we were right. And when we said that there were contracting, what we believed would be contracting irregularities, and that there was insider dealing on things like the $60 million Arrive scam, that is exactly what we found. That's exactly what we found. But we were told, do not investigate this. You're calling into question the good work of honest public servants. Nope. We were calling into question grifting done by people who are adding no value to products that Canadian taxpayers were paying for but could ill afford and provided no real safety or service to them. But we were told, don't ask the question. This is just politics that you're doing. No, the House passed motions to recuperate, to recover that money, because those were ill-gotten gains. We have a real opportunity here to actually refurbish the confidence that Canadians have in their public institutions and public office holders. That is actually something that we're able to do. We're not going to be scared off by just the mere suggestion that we should be delighted that the Prime Minister ran for office. And we're not going to simply accept that because he says it, so it is. Trust, it has to be earned. And if this was, in fact, a new government, we would not see ministers who broke the very law that we are reviewing at this committee in the federal cabinet today. So there hasn't been that kind of repair done to the reputation of the government. And so we're going to demand accountability, especially in the context of the law that we're reviewing. We saw from the time that Mr. Carney started as an advisor to Mr. Trudeau, decisions being taken by the Liberal government that align directly with the investments and financial interests of Mr. Carney and the company that he represented. I think about decisions on heat pumps and Brookfield's investment in Train. I think about mortgage rule changes. Well, Brookfield is the owner of the second largest private mortgage insurer, if I'm not mistaken. Time and time again, and Mr. Carney, we saw what happened when he was in the UK with exactly the same kind of heat pump scheme being peddled by the government there in response to a request that benefited him. The heat pump hustle is a perfect example of why we just can't take him at his word. It's about the integrity of the system that we have here. And we saw, and I don't need to relitigate the issues of Mr. Trudeau. But Mr. Carney seems to be accumulating his own at such a speed that if we don't slow down and take a look at some of these, like, for example, this list not being furnished to this committee. He didn't send it to us, but he knew the motion was passed. He's got a real big staff. Was not furnished to this committee as evidence for our consideration or as a response to Mr. Cooper, being proactive, being open. This is an opportunity that they passed up, that Mr. Carney passed up. Why? If this isn't about politics, and if he's just focused on doing a great job.
No one believes that.
Unfortunately, it's impossible to believe because of the decisions that he's taken to this point. And so we're left to ask for the receipts. Show us who was there. We need to know. And some of the questions that we've examined today about how we can improve on the act that we have so that we can know who knows what. When is the screen being triggered? What decisions has he recused himself from? We don't know. And so, again, we're left to take him at his word. The question about tax havens today isn't something that was just conjured out of thin air. It's because we know that Mr. Carney put together funds in his role as chair at Brookfield Asset Management that were in tax havens. So I can't believe that this is someone who's altruistic and, solely focused on what's in the best interest of Canada when he thought, what would be best for us is what's best for Bermuda. Let's headquarter this business down there above a bike shop and make sure we're not paying our fair share of taxes in Canada. That doesn't sound like someone who's who's got that level of focus. And so we have to press and we have to ask the tough questions. And it should be pretty up and down. I mean, a vote on something like this. You would think that it could pass, but again, I've been here for a minute, and I've seen filibusters start to move from the back burner to the front burner, and I can't sit here while we just cycle through speaker after speaker who just want to say, you know, how everything's great and we should just let things slide. Take him at his word. Well, I don't take him at his word. I would like to see the receipts, as we said. If this was a good faith exercise from the Prime Minister's office, they would have furnished it to the committee. They did not. We're asking for the rest of the information. It's not too much to ask. It's actually the least that they can provide to Canadians. And so if the conversation has to continue, we can continue it. But it's about improving. It's about improving the safeguards, improving the shields, so that Canadians can have confidence in elected officials. They can have confidence in Parliament.
Ms. Church, on the motion.
Well, Mr. Chair, my colleague, the member opposite, talks a lot about trust in institutions. But I would argue to this committee that what we're actually witnessing is an undermining of the trust in our institutions. The law is an institution in this country. There is an ethics regime under the law. It exists. The Ethics Commissioner oversees this regime. Mr. Chair, we've just spent 2 hours listening to witnesses who have talked to us about the strictures of that framework that exists and that has been in place here for decades. And so when I hear the members opposite talk highly about maintaining trust in institutions, about their concern over how the ethics framework is applied, I think about this committee's role and about a member's role usurping the function of the Ethics Commissioner. We heard from Mr. Giorno about half an hour ago how the Ethics Commissioner very deliberately has insight into the disclosures of all members that are subject to the regime. Parliament, in creating the ethics framework, has ensured that that disclosure exists, that disclosure goes to an ethics commissioner who is independent and, in fact, above the partisanship of Parliament. A partisanship which is appropriate in certain circumstances, but when it comes to personal and private interests, when it comes to the financial situation of all members of Parliament, these are communicated to the Ethics Commissioner to ensure that office has full knowledge over what the situation of members actually is. With that knowledge, the Ethics Commissioner sets up the rules which public office holders are then bound to apply. What I'm hearing from my colleague opposite is actually an undermining of that framework, because he suggests that it is this committee's role to ensure that members go above and beyond, that in some ways they take it under their own advisement as to what are the rules that they should follow. Not the rules that are on the books, not the rules that are delineated in the law and in the Act, and the timeframes that have been established by Parliament, but that somehow there is that members must go above and beyond. it is a strange time when conservatives consider it to be a best approach that parliamentarians are outside or above the law. Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chair, I should say, as a committee, I think we need to be focused on the review of the acts before us. I think that that's the main prerogative of this committee, and we should direct as much of our attention, if the laws are insufficient, to fixing those laws, to changing those laws, but to not prosecuting individual cases against individual members of Parliament in this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Sarré.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais bien remercier toutes les personnes qui ont pris la parole, puis j'essaie.
I would like to thank the people who spoke, and I would like to what you're talking about, to know what you are talking about. My understanding is that, in my opinion,
Harming the institutions. When we're talking about confidence, I think that dealing with the issue of confidence in a party, if you don't want to play politics, well, look, my question about the commission of a House of Commons, of a member of Parliament, it's still something that's initiated by the will of citizens. Chair, there was a choice. Citizens made a choice. Let's talk about trust. Trust has been given less than 6 months ago. That's number one. Number two, I think there are people here who have experience on the other side. I have no doubt about that. But there are commissioners who have come here who are telling us that this is the role, what the role is that we're supposed to be playing in this committee. And here is the role of an MP. And this is what the current situation is involving our Prime Minister. And now you're saying, no, you're wrong. No, you are wrong about that because we have to go further because it's a strange situation. It's strange for me to see such experienced members of Parliament going off the rails this way and going beyond the role which has been conferred upon us as members of this committee. And I'll stop there. I believe that we have to focus to be able to have a report based on the mandate that we have been given. Chair, this is your role. And I am speaking to you when I say we should come out with a report. If we're going to have this conversation each time, we will not have a report that will represent the experience and the expertise that we should have here on this committee. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur Sarré.
Thank you, Mr. Sarré.
Do I have consensus on this, or do we need to go to a vote? Okay, we're going to go to a vote. Madam Chair, will you take the roll, please? Thank you. Oh, sorry. 1 steamboat, 2 steamboat. No other hands. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
The vote is on the motion moved by Mr. Cooper. Ms. Church.
Opposed.
No.
Madame Lapointe. Called. Mr. Seni.
Against.
Monsieur Sari.
Contre.
Mr. Barrett.
In favor.
Mr. Cooper.
In favor.
Mr. Workington.
In favor.
Here, here.
Monsieur Thériault.
Oui.
Yeas 4, nays 4.
And the chair votes yes.
So yeas 5, nays 4.
Okay, the motion carries.